Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Brightworks. Today, we're going to start taking a look at bombing with the Armada faction. Bombing takes a lot of strategy, and there's a lot of interesting, communication that you have to do with your team. You have to be aware of the map, and you have to sort of know how to do it properly in order for it to be, really effective. Get those really, really nice hits on the enemy that actually help your team, not just throwing a lot of metal towards the enemy team. So you'll notice our setup today. We have an active AI on my team as well as an inactive AI on the other team. The reason for that I'll get into as we get into this, but it involves a strategy where you blow up your commander intentionally in order to use his metal to produce metal of your own, or to salvage the metal and use it to build some of your units. But I'm going to show you a nice little build order. The order on this is very tight, and it only works in certain conditions, so I'm going to explain those as we get into it. But I'm going to hit start, and I'll talk about that while we load in here. Now, bombing, the important thing to know is that it's all about the ratio of units that you build. So the golden ratio for me is usually two, at least for T1, is three scout units. Two or three. Two works, but I prefer three. And then about 10 bombers. I usually go for 10, and I usually wait for all 10. I don't send out two and then another two. Because if you use all 10 at the same time, they're all going to put up AA defense as soon as they see the bombers. So you're more likely to score more hits as long as you use them all in the same time and in a timely manner. So looking at this map, you can kind of see there's some forward spots and some back spots. And if you're planning on going air, it's really important that you communicate with your team about exactly what spot or exactly what plan you're going to do, and choose a spot accordingly. So you can see on this map there's a couple spots that you might reasonably consider the backline spots. Basically, anything like here, 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 and here would kind of be the backline. And then you have all of these spots here, which would basically be the front line. You can see it's 4 and 4 because this is an 8v8 map. But you can also sometimes lend these four mexes, like what I would do if I was going to this spot. And I'm going to show you how to do it on this spot because this is a sort of common map and this is a good strategy to know of. Now in this circle right here, there's these four mexes, and what you might do is tell your teammate up here in this position to just capture these and just use their metal, because it'll really help them hold their line. If you look at the reason why this is the safest place to go for planes, go bombers, compared to all the rest of these, is simply the amount of metal that this lane has, like all of this basically, compared to the metal that this player is going to have, which is these. Sometimes not even this one. You can sort of omit this one for our team as well. But if you look at that, that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mexes versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Plus, if you lend them these four, that's a huge advantage that they're going to have in metal production right away. It'll at the very least let them go vehicles very comfortably, if not spam a whole lot of bots right into that lane, like they should. And so part of the strategy for if you're playing this front line here is to make sure that you capture these metal mexes, and you're going to have a very smooth time pushing through this chokehold here. But anyway, we're going to play planes, and we're going to assume that our friend up here is going to capture all of these, so we're not going to touch them. We're going to let them have those mexes. We're going to be very generous. And I'm going to show you how to build up your economy and manage it, and also do all the rest, the sort of tricky maneuver of sacrificing your commander in order for the greater good, I guess you could suppose. In order to get those bombers out efficiently and really hit your enemy with I guess you might call it a timing attack of sorts. So anyway, let's ready up. And the first thing we're going to do is put our mexes down. And then we're going to take a look at the wind power. And you can see that it can drop to 0, but it can go as high as 16. So that's definitely worth gambling on, although we sort of have to be smart about it. So we can see it's dropping down to pretty low right now. So the first thing I'm going to build is not a solar panel. I'm going to build or not a wind turbine. I'm going to build a solar panel. And the reason for that is that we basically just need this stable energy production of something. Now, we are getting a little bit more energy because we have an active AI over there. Normally, you'd be sort of stalling right now, or you would be close to it anyway. But anyway, we're gonna build some wind turbines here, and we're gonna basically count on the fact that the wind turbines are eventually going to pay back for themselves, even though right now they definitely aren't. Now at this point you would be low on energy. The reason we're not is because of this enemy or this friendly commander. The reason we need this guy, of course, is because if we plan on sacrificing our commander, we will lose the game if I just self-destruct my commander. Such is the way. Now you can see wind is sort of slowly picking up, so we're gonna have enough energy to basically build all this, and then after we build our 6 solar panels, we're gonna build a battery. And the reason for that is that these bombers take up a huge amount of energy, so it's definitely worth it to build up enough energy while you can, in order to reasonably sustain yourself. And then after that, we're not going to start with an air lab. That's a very common mistake that a lot of the newer players I see making. You'll hear it in every tutorial, every good player that tells you anything about Beyond All Reason. They're going to tell you, do not start with an air lab. And the reason for that is the cost. Everything that comes out of the air lab costs a tremendous amount of energy, and you just can't afford it in the early game. Compared to the bots, they're much cheaper. So anyway, the queue that we're going to start with is 1 constructor, 1 Lazarus, and then another constructor. The commander is going to help with all that, because we want him around. We're planning to use him for his metal. So this first constructor is basically just going to come over here and start working on a chain of 4 different construction turrets. The Lazarus, we're just going to keep him on standby right now. If you wanted to, if you're bold, you could send him up to the front line and kind of micro him around. But you want to make sure to have him back, in a timely manner. Now this guy, we don't have a use for at the moment, because normally you would use this to go capture these mexes if you weren't giving them to your teammate. Even if you were giving them to your teammate, you might still use it to capture these mexes, and just give them to the teammate as you wish. The way you do that, by the way, is by selecting a unit and then clicking this arrow in the bottom right-hand corner here, these kind of swap arrows. You double-click that, and it will, when you have a unit selected, and it'll gift a unit to your teammate. But anyway, we're gonna just kind of consider this constructor like null. You technically could omit this from your build order if you see your teammate is already grabbing these, and save a little bit of metal, 110 metal. Now we are running low on power, which means we're going to come over here and we're going to build another 6 windmills right here. There we go. As we do that, we should be able to produce enough power to fund all this. So after this last construction turret is built, we're going to go up to, wind is pretty good. So we're going to go with 4 advanced solar panels. You kind of want to go between 4 and 6. It's kind of the golden zone to aim for, I guess you could say. Anywhere between there is going to give you enough power to reasonably build a aircraft factory. But you can see that we're rapidly running out of metal here. So the next thing that we're going to do is come over here with this commander. Say you produce this and there's not really a reason for it. You can also use it to help deconstruct this. Your commander has 200 build power, I believe. 300 actually. And this has 80. So, not like a crazy help there, but, it makes a difference. And we are stalling on metal, so we're going to even use these guys to help take this down before they get back to work on that. These advanced solars cost 370 metal a piece, so very expensive. The commander, what I like to do is take him back to the back somewhere and basically build these energy converters, which is important because they're basically the backbone behind getting rid of that energy stall. And now you can see we're almost out of metal. We're basically out right now. So I'm going to let this guy finish, and then I'm going to put him like way over here. So these solar panels the wind turbines are, the advanced solar panels are done. Now we want to start the bot lab, so we spend as little time as we have to stalling. You might be able to crank out a few more of these energy production things, these energy converters. But when you're running out of metal like this and you're stalling on energy, that's when it's time to sacrifice your commander. Now don't worry if you get some strange looks from your teammates. Just explain to them that you're using it for metal, you're using it for bombing, and they should understand, and you'll be on your way. So like I said, we're going to queue up 3 of these scouts and then 10 of these bombers, and we're going to put them on a patrol path right there. Make sure this guy gets on a patrol path. And we're also going to turn off the land setting. It's right here. We're going to tell them all to fly. Because if your planes land at any point, they can be attacked by ground units. Now monitor your metal and make sure that you're not excessing it. Because you don't want to be giving your metal away for free. It has a purpose and you need all of it. You can see our energy is going down very quickly. It's because these bombers cost 4,200 per, per unit. So our production of these is going to slow down drastically. At which point you can turn back on the metal harvesting. And a lot of people will stop their metal harvesting at like 1%. Just leave a couple metal left in their commander, in case it needs to be revived. Personally, I've yet to find a game where I need that commander. It really makes the difference. Usually you're going to win or lose by such a large margin that one commander being up or down doesn't really matter at all. So once our energy is a little low because wind is dropping, and that's something you have to monitor. To remedy that, you can build more advanced solar panels, and in fact that's what I'm going to do, because when we transition out of this, we want to be prepared for it with the economy we need to move into T2. But that being said, metal's getting a little low, so we turn back on the reclaim bot, waiting on this last bomber here. It's going to take a little bit longer because we're building these advanced solar panels, but that's all right. And we finish eating up our commander. That's great. So now this res bot is kind of useless to our purposes. So if you want to send it to the front line, give it to somebody, or just start trying to harvest as much as you can, that will be just great. So now we're gonna hit pause. In fact, I'll literally pause this just so we pause at the appropriate time here. So about 7 minutes in, this could probably be done a little faster. I'm a little slow because of explaining all this and whatnot. But now at this point, you have 10 bombers out and 3 scouting units. So highlight a unit and then Control Z. That's to select all units of that type. And you can see I've got 3 of these blinks. Now they have a huge vision radius. So the way I usually try and do this, you have to zoom out on the map, scroll wheel, or you can hit tab to auto zoom. I really hate this orientation though, so I hardly ever use it. You're gonna have a bunch of teammates that are pushed up to various points, right? They're gonna be holding these lines, whatever it may be. It's sort of typically on this map, you'll have kind of this area held more or less. That's the ideal line. If this side up here is really good, kind of this area, sometimes they'll push out of this a little ways, and then you're kind of bracketed into this defense. That's a suboptimal line, but it's it's what happens sometimes. The most dangerous part of this map specifically, this is specific to this map, but it's relevant because this map comes on over time. This lane is usually really difficult to hold because of the exact same reason that I said earlier, where this outside lane has way more metal. So these two players have to be really in sync with their movements and helping each other to the absolute max in order to survive in this lane. Not impossible by any stretch of the means. It absolutely can be done, and I've seen some amazing plays by taking advantage of these side routes here and then kind of sneaking along this lane and then into the enemy's back lane. But just know that if you do play this lane, you are required to communicate with your guy back here. And if they won't communicate, you need to make them communicate or put someone who will communicate there, because you're kind of admitting defeat already by starting here, and not having the support of the guy behind you. Anyway, that side tangent aside, what I meant to say through all that was that you're going to have a good idea of the defenses set up on the enemy's front line. Say it's here. You'll know maybe they have anti-air turrets here, and this one guy over here put an anti-air turret, so this whole area is covered by anti-air, and then kind of this area is covered in anti-air. So obviously you have to zoom out and you have to look at that. Anti-air will be green, just for your information. The circles for anti-air are green. So you zoom out on the map and you highlight your blink, your scout. You hit Control Z, and then you kind of plan out your movements based on what you see, right? So if there wasn't anti-air here, I would say just an even spread of the 3 units. Just put them all in a line like this, and then just send them across. And that'll give you a good idea of where the anti-air is, where the anti-air isn't, if you don't already know. Say we already know that there's anti-air here and anti-air here. What that probably means is that there's anti-air built at the front, but not at their base, because they're expecting some sort of stunner harassment or something of that nature. So what I would do in this situation, let's take this specific situation. Not unlikely that there's a few anti-air turrets up. We're gonna put our scouts here. We're gonna queue them to go like this, so that none of these lines cross the anti-air lines. And then we're gonna send them out in sort of like a wide pattern, like that. By the way, if you don't know how I'm doing these lines, this is when you select multiple units and you right-click and drag. That's what's allowing me to drag these dots, and that'll put a unit at each of those dots, sort of evenly spaced. It is the most helpful micro tool that there is in any RTS game I've ever played. Actually, it's like insanely useful. It's everything you've ever wanted to do to micro units to be perfectly concaved every time. Anyway, you're now looking at like this kind of nice thing where you've gone past the anti-air. You know, I don't really like this, so I'm gonna hold shift and then left click, I believe. Yeah, and you can kind of move these around to wherever you want them. Let's pull this in a little tighter as well, and then just send them through, and there you go, and you'll have a nice scout of where the enemy is. Now, as soon as you send these out, you also want to select your bombers. A little bit of APM taxation here. You want to send your bombers and group them somewhere in this area where you know they're not going to be targeted, right? There's no, you don't want to park them over anti-air, basically. So your scouts are going to go out. Your bombers are going to go park somewhere relatively safe. And then as soon as your scouters have the information on where the enemy's eco is, you're going to send your bombers in. Now, there's a lot of technical stuff to discuss here. Your bombers, what should you be looking for? What are the primary targets for T1 bombers? The obvious ones, energy converters. These are highly explosive and pretty easy to chain react, and hardly ever will they be built in a spaced out manner. They're an obvious target for bombers because they will explode and destroy everything around them pretty easily. Second target you would look for are wind farms. So these little clusters of 6 wind farms. I do build them like this intentionally. That way, if they target one of these, the other one is still up and running, and they have to retarget. That's why you'll sometimes see me build wind farms like this, where I spread them out 2 or 3 clicks. That's because this will spare them from chain reacting so harshly against each other, because they explode as well. And the third target is nano turrets, these little guys. Because if you look at this is actually 840 metal and 12,000 energy. These are actually very expensive. And they are definitely worth taking out if you can. They chain react as well, so they're another great target for bombers. The ratios also matter. So if you're looking to target wind farms, say we were bombing my own wind farms here. Say we had scouted this, and this is kind of the base that we saw. I would take 2 planes, and I would hit A so that I'm in the targeting mode. And you can see with the bombers, it shows you exactly the targeting line. You have to be careful with this because bombers are one that you basically have to target them manually if you really want to do the right amount of damage. So don't just like hit F, and just send a fight command and just move them over here. That's really not going to cut it. They're going to be throwing bombs all over the place. It's not going to be effective. That's why scouting is so important, is because you really need to target the right areas. So what I would do is say my bombers are coming in. Say they're coming in this direction. So I have my bombers, and they're right here, and they're coming in towards the base here. I would have them queued to this location, and then I would hit A and then hold shift and then right click and spread out their bombs to those areas right there. And that's going to give me a nice spread on the bombs, and enough of them will hit the windmills here that we're going to see a chain reaction. And 2 is usually sufficient to take out a whole thing of windmills. Because they will chain react, and 2 bombers is about the right ratio. For these construction turrets, you can do it with 2 as well, but it's a little bit less consistent. So I would say go for 3 if you have the spare bombers. With 10, you definitely do. And so you want to target these with 3. If you're not confident with your bombing or you're just picking it up, I would say go for 3 just to be safe. Now the other thing to keep in mind with bombers is they kind of start dropping like way over on the side. You can see it's over by that top right construction turret. So you actually don't want to put it like right here in the middle or on this far one. You want to bomb a little bit before any of these guys, and that's going to get you at least 3 bombs landing on this from each of these bombers, and that'll be more than enough to set off a chain reaction here. And then the same thing, you're going to do the same sort of thing for these other windmills, just two bombers per wind farm. And then for these energy converters, you don't even need two. You can actually just drop one bomber, and that'll basically do all the damage that you need done. So that kind of gives you an idea of the ratios for T1 bombers to T1 eco, kind of how much you need to spend on where. No, I am going to cancel this because I don't want to destroy all this eco, because I do still want to show you what we're looking at next. So I'm going to unpause now. Helpful command to know. It's just pause. You can also hit the pause key, I believe. It doesn't work for me because I think I have it bound to volume control. But anywho, you can see the scouts going out, and they have a nice huge radius that they're going to go look around in now. So keep an eye on your scouts. Keep a very wide POV when you're sending out these scouts, because maybe this one gets shot down. And you don't, that gets shot down. So you're like, okay, there's anti-air there, so I can't send it through that same path. I have to keep, you're supposed to be on fly. There we go. So you don't want to like send them through that path because there's anti-air there. So maybe you'll send them here, maybe you'll send them around here, maybe there's anti-air back here, so you know not to bomb that base, bomb, the weaker ones. Basically, wherever your scouts don't get shot down, those are the areas to bomb. Now, if you do see one light anti-aircraft tower, it'll shoot down your scout, but if you know that for sure, like it's just in the middle of their base and you know for sure that that's their last one, you can bomb that anti-air tower and your bombers will be fine. Your bombers can take quite a few hits from anti-air, the light ones. So then you send your bombers in and you do the same thing, right? Like you do like two of these, you do, say they have a wind farm here, you put two there. They have an energy converter, you send one there. They have, some other thing. You're going to send these three bombers. You're going to send them maybe around here. Maybe there's anti-air here, so you have to send them around this way and then this way, and then bomb that area, and then these two wherever. Maybe you send them to the front line. That can also be helpful if there's an enemy establishing a front line right here, and it's really dense. They have a bunch of light laser turrets or something. Send some bombers like this, and make sure that they're attacking from the side. But then just put them kind of spaced out and let them bomb that front line. No reason you can't do that. Just typically if there's going to be anti-air on the front line, but if there isn't, then absolutely take advantage of that and help your teammate by dropping a bunch of bombs in the enemy front line. It'll really soften up those units, and especially those laser towers, and get them down to where really light harassment can take them out. So now you've done your bombing. These will eventually get taken care of. They'll get shot down. That's okay. You're counting on that. What you need to do... Yes, I know. What you need to do as a backline player now is look at what does my team need, right? Did my scouting reveal that the enemy is going for bombers? If so, just go back to your T1 plant and get a bunch of Falcons out. Build a fighter screen. What that looks like is just putting a rally point out here, and then the simplest fighter screen is just one patrol point like that. I usually try and make them a little more sophisticated. I don't know why, but I feel like it helps. Just something like a trapezoid or something to that effect, and you just click a repeater or click a fighter and you put repeat on, and then you have you have these fighters that are going to be in production, and then you'll be spitting these out, and your team will be safe, for the foreseeable future at the very least, from bomber attacks. But it is your responsibility as the air player to make sure that you're looking around and you're making sure, like, okay, there's bombers coming from the right side. Grab the fighters, Control Z to select them all, and then pull them all over here. Okay, the fighters are gone. Just put these back here. You have fly turned on, so they're never going to land or anything. Fighters don't land on their own, but it's good to have that for everything. And then just redisperse your fighters so they're available if they push and you miss it. But in the meantime, you can build this fighter screen. The other thing you can do with your T2 position is now you have the economy to tech. And you have a bunch of metal stored up in an air factory, because remember, the air factory costs 860 metal on its own. With all the metal that you'll be gathering while you aren't bombing, it's very, very feasible to go straight into a tier 2 factory, a tier 2 bot lab. And so indeed, that's the other approach you can do. You just put down this tier 2 bot lab, eat this with every constructor you have, and then put all that metal into this bot lab, or this tier 2 bot lab. Now, do remember that factory actually costs more metal than you can store. So I did make a bit of a mistake there by not putting down a metal storage. So do remember to do that. Sorry if it's too late and you're watching this mid-game. That'd be pretty impressive, though. Another helpful trick, just while we're at it, is these T1 solar panels contribute almost nothing once you have these advanced solar panels up, but they take up 155 metal, which is like an insane amount of metal. It's almost a third of the price of an advanced metal. So eat those up as soon as you can, because they're not worth keeping around. I would take one of these guys, and I would definitely go build some more energy converters, because we're accessing energy, and whenever you see that, that means build energy converters. That's kind of general rule of thumb. I know you see you have this nice fighter screen that's going to keep the shurikens, those little paralyzer bots, off of your front line. That'll be very helpful. Your teammates will be tremendously grateful for that, as well as stop any bombing runs that'll be coming back at you. Because remember, your enemies are just as likely to send this strategy back in your face as you are. If you do decide to tech, be sure to sell some Tech 2 units to your teammates. Don't be afraid to ask, like, hey, just stay in chat real quick. Selling T2. You would do it in allied chat. Selling T2. And what that means is you're gonna, for 430 metal, most people just send you 500. You will build people construction turrets, or construction bots rather, and you will send them out to them wherever they need them on the map. So whoever pays you, basically, capitalism, that sort of thing. But don't be afraid to ask for that while you're building the bot lab, because that's another way to finance that. Of course, also remember that these energy producers are a ton of metal as well. You have almost 2,200 metal, little more than 2,200 metal stored up in energy producers here, but you're accessing energy, so you're not even able to use all the energy that you have. So you might as well spend it somewhere, right? So you can re-eat these, eat them up, and put that metal back into a bot lab. All just tips. These outside of air are also just good tips for good practice for when you're actually playing. Like, let's see, we're at 84%. If we eat one of these and then throw it directly into this lab, I reckon it'll get us almost all the way there. Yeah, we're gonna be at like almost 90% now. Yeah, there we go. And now we're done. So now people are gonna be asking for T2. You just start pumping them out like crazy. Because you're the backline, you don't really have to worry about people. Looks like that inactive AI actually shot down our scout planes. Let's keep an eye on them. Anyway, it looks like you're the backline. You don't really have to worry about people harassing your units, so you don't need to get units out super fast if you're going to tech for everybody. But go check out my general overview. That contains teching instructions, how to start building your T2 economy. In brief, the build order is upgrade your mexes, upgrade at least 3 of your mexes, build a energy converter, build a fusion reactor. So it looks like this. Let me just do it and show instead of tell. Upgrade 3 of your mexes, build an energy converter, build a fusion reactor, build a second energy converter, a second fusion reactor, 2 more energy converters, and then you can start going into APHIS. This queue right here will build in the background, and with the right balance of build power, about 4 turrets is pretty good. This will build in the background, and eventually you'll realize you're up to 50, 60, and then 100 metal per second. And by that point, hopefully you're building more build power, producing more units, looking around, seeing what your team needs, and that's the best way that I've come up with anyway for handling bombing, and having your team be happy about it. Happy every time that you say that you're going to do bombing from the back, because after all, they're much more happy to let you do those interesting strategies, do kind of those rare things if you're competent and you show that competence, and if you're confident too. I feel like confidence is 90% of the battle here. As long as you feel like you know what you're doing, you're not gonna be panicked. You're not gonna be just dragging your mouse around hoping that you do the right thing. It'll be you're just cool and calculated, and you'll be thinking your way through it. But I think that's going to be it for today. I really hope this helps you guys feel a little more confident with air. Stay tuned for the Cortex tutorial. That'll be coming out very shortly after this one, because it is similar but slightly different, and so it will likely be a little bit more concise, but it should have some helpful info. Anyways, thank you all very much for watching. Please consider subscribing. It really does mean the world to me, and feel free to check out some of the casts as well while you're here. Thanks, and have a good one.